Before she turned 20, she gave birth to a monster. Not one of flesh and blood, but a creation born from grief, guilt, and a staggering genius. Her name was Mary Shelley, the Mother of Frankenstein. But long before she gave life to her creature, the world had already taken almost everything from her. This is the story of the girl who made a monster, and the monster that was her life. Mary Shelley was practically born into tragedy. Her mother, the celebrated feminist writer Mary Wollstonecraft, died just 11 days after giving birth to her. Mary grew up in the long shadow of a mother she never knew, finding solace only at her graveside. It was there, among the cold stone monuments, that her life would change forever. At just 16, she met Percy Bysshe Shelley. He was a poet, brilliant, reckless, and utterly magnetic. There was just one problem. He was already married. But their connection was immediate and intense. They saw in each other a shared spirit of rebellion against the stuffy conventions of their time. So they did what any two young, passionate romantics would do. They ran away together, chasing a future filled with love and poetry. But history whispers a darker, more haunting detail about their affair. It's said that Mary lost her virginity to Percy right there, at her own mother's grave. Whether this is romantic legend or historical fact, it paints a chilling picture. For Mary, it seems love and death were always destined to walk hand in hand, intertwined from the very beginning of her story. This sacred space of mourning became a site of passionate awakening, forever blurring the lines between grief and desire, between the end of one life and the beginning of another. Their life together was far from a simple romance. They lived as exiles, ostracized by polite society for their scandalous affair. Poverty was a constant companion, and their grand ideals were often overshadowed by the harsh realities of their situation. And then, the true darkness began to creep in. Death, which had haunted Mary from birth, became a relentless follower. Mary gave birth to 4 children with Percy, but the cold hand of fate would allow only one to survive into adulthood. Her first child, a daughter named Clara, was born prematurely and died just a few weeks later. The loss was a wound that never truly healed. In the depths of her sorrow, Mary wrote a heartbreaking entry in her journal. "Dream that my little baby came to life again, that it had only been cold and that we rubbed it before the fire and it lived." Think about those words. The desperate, aching hope of a mother trying to will her child back to life, to warm its cold limbs back into being. This very image of reanimating a cold, lifeless form through sheer will and unconventional science would plant a seed in her mind. A dark, terrifying seed that, watered by grief, would eventually grow into something monstrous. Her personal agony was becoming the raw material for a story the world would never forget. The year was 1816. It became known as the Year Without a Summer due to a massive volcanic eruption that cast a gloomy pall over Europe. Mary, Percy, and their infamous friend, the poet Lord Byron, found themselves confined to a villa by the shores of Lake Geneva. Rain and storms lashed the countryside for days on end. To pass the dark, dreary nights, they read German ghost stories. Then, Byron issued a challenge. Each of them would write their own supernatural tale. At first, Mary struggled for an idea. The men around her, celebrated poets, quickly began scribbling away. She felt an immense pressure to prove herself, not just as Percy's companion, but as the daughter of 2 brilliant literary minds. She listened to Percy and Byron discuss the nature of life, debating whether a corpse could be reanimated, perhaps through galvanism or some other scientific principle. The conversation lingered in her mind as she went to sleep. Then, in that state between waking and dreaming, a vision came to her. It was terrifyingly vivid. She later wrote, "I saw the pale student of unhallowed arts kneeling beside the thing he had put together. I saw the hideous phantasm of a man stretched out, and then, on the working of some powerful engine, show signs of life, and stir with an uneasy, half-vital motion." She woke in terror. The idea had possessed her. This wasn't just a ghost story. It was a waking nightmare born from her deepest fears and sorrows. The pale student was Victor Frankenstein, and his monstrous creation, stitched together from corpses and given a spark of unnatural life, was a chilling reflection of her own soul. It embodied her grief over her lost children, her loneliness as an outcast, and the profound, unbearable guilt she felt. The guilt of a creator bringing something into a world that will only reject it. At just 18 years old, drawing from her own agony, Mary Shelley conceived the story that would become Frankenstein, or the modern Prometheus. And in doing so, she gave birth to the genre of science fiction. The publication of Frankenstein was a sensation, but it did not end the tragedies in Mary's life. The darkness was not finished with her. Just a few years later, in 1822, Percy Shelley, the great love of her life, drowned at sea during a sudden storm. He was only 29. When his body was recovered and cremated on a beach in Italy, his friends watched in horror as his heart, for some inexplicable reason, refused to burn in the flames. Mary, ever the keeper of macabre relics, took her husband's unburnt heart. She wrapped it in silk, placed it in a small box, and kept it with her for the rest of her life. A physical, tangible piece of the man she had loved so fiercely and lost so brutally. For the next 3 decades, Mary lived a much quieter life. She dedicated herself to raising her only surviving son, Percy Florence, and to cementing her late husband's literary legacy by painstakingly editing and publishing his works. All the while, her own creation, Frankenstein's monster, was taking on a life of its own. It grew larger than the book, larger than the stage plays, and eventually, larger than her own name. She became known not as Mary Shelley, the brilliant author, but as the author of Frankenstein. Mary Shelley died at the age of 53. She had outlived her mother, 3 of her children, her husband, and most of her friends. She left a world that had given her so much pain, but her monster, her creation, still lives on. It remains as the beating, stitched-together heart of her immeasurable pain and her undeniable genius. Mary Shelley didn't just write a story, she wrote her soul into history. She taught us that from the deepest, most profound grief, creation can rise. From the finality of death, something eternal can be born. So the next time you think of Frankenstein as just a simple monster story, I want you to look again. See it for what it truly is, a mirror held up to the human heart, reflecting all its hopes, its fears, and its pain. If this story moved you, please subscribe and click the bell. Every week we bring back the voices and stories the world tried to forget. And now I want to ask you something. If there's a thought that bothers you, an agony you carry, a question that haunts you, or a name you can't let go of, share it with us in the comments below. We might just explore your darkness in a future video. Thank you for watching.